I want to talk about outsourcing for a second because as a working mom, one of the number one pieces of advice that I get from other working moms is that I should outsource as much as I can, right? I think women hear this all the time. If you want to be successful at work and successful at home, outsource what you can, the dog walking, the laundry, the cooking, like whatever you can outsource, outsource it. And I find it so interesting because we don't give this advice to working dads because ultimately most of them are outsourcing their tasks to their partner and or the things that they do happen super infrequently. Like the lawn, for example, is very easy to outsource. It's not as easy to outsource laundry, for example. But I want to talk about outsourcing in particular because I actually came across a comment and I'm going to post it here on LinkedIn. And somebody used that word outsourcing as it relates to childcare. Now, for context, the post itself was from a man whose opening line was, "My son will never go to daycare." And the point of his post was essentially to say that for him and his wife, it was a priority that their son was never in childcare, never with a nanny, and that she would stay at home. And I've seen more and more of these posts on platforms like LinkedIn, which I find so interesting because they're a platform for working people. So you assume the people consuming them are working dads, working moms, and so it's going to elicit a certain reaction. And I feel like these posts are meant to depict the importance of someone staying at home. And the interesting thing is it's almost always men making these posts, and they're often saying that their partner stays at home, so insinuating that women should do this. And on that post was this comment that said, my husband and I refuse to outsource childcare for someone else to raise our kids. And that language is so intentional and it can be so harmful to women. And it really is directed at women. We're saying it is morally superior to be a stay-at-home mom than it is to be a working mom. And I think this is just so layered. It's such a layered conversation. It's why we have a childcare crisis and lack of paid leave and all of these things, because we truly do believe that women should be at home. And if platforms like LinkedIn are promoting this idea, it obviously creates shame and guilt for mothers. And I find it so interesting because when men work full-time, right? We call them providers, we call them family men. And when women do, we say that they're selfish, that they're prioritizing work over their kids. And this kind of language, making posts about how your son will never be in daycare, insinuating that daycare is bad, saying that people who have childcare are outsourcing raising their kids, that is all very intentional. Like the language being used is intentional. We say outsource to women all of the time, outsource things. And so then to weaponize it against them in the form of talking about childcare feels so intentional to me. Anyways, I want to talk about it because I feel like outsourcing is this thing that we often suggest to women. There's so many platforms for assistants, for families, for house managers, for just ways to outsource. And I do think there's a place for outsourcing. There are things that I have outsourced, like dog walking or house cleaning, for example. But I also think it is something that we often put on women because their partners are not kind of bridging that gap for what needs to be done in the house. And even when you outsource, there's still some sort of mental load there. But childcare is not outsourcing raising your kids. That language is just meant to create shame and guilt for working moms, because we know childcare can be hugely beneficial, not just to children, but to families in general. And men benefit from childcare just as much as women do. And if it is outsourcing, then is every man with a stay-at-home partner outsourcing raising his kids to his partner? Like, no, that language is intentional and it is meant to make people feel shame for having childcare.